We have a severe problem in the open software ecosystem. That is, the subtle but effective infiltration of corporate interest in the community in form of quote-unquote permissive licenses that allow companies to exploit the work of contributors into proprietary product. When I started getting into the open software ecosystem, there was a lot of confusion when it came to the multiple licenses that were available to the users. What was the minutiae between different licenses? How is an MIT different from a BSD Clause 3? How is the Mozilla Public License different from the Apache License 2.0? Do I have to become a lawyer to understand the differences between these? Patent and copyright law are quite complicated as they are, and there's quite a lot to take in when delving into the specifics of these legal systems. Well, I'm here to announce that I haven't become a lawyer and that I still don't know the differences between the CLIB, BSD, and MIT licenses. But I do know that whenever you check the website of many an open software project, you will more likely than not find one of their selling points being a quote-unquote permissive license. That sounds so nice, doesn't it? A permissive license. Chances are, if you are someone who is interested in open software, you're more likely than not to find it to be an idealistic or moral duty to provide back to the ecosystem that has given us so much, right? If you're none the wiser and you were put with the choice of choosing a permissive license as opposed to a restrictive one, you're naturally going to gravitate towards the permissive side of the spectrum, are you not? We're all freedom-loving individuals. We all want to act on that which we intuit is the best solution not only for us, but for those who will come after us. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, as quoted in the GNU website, "As we enjoy great advantages from the inventions of others, we should be glad of an opportunity to serve others by any invention of ours. And this we should do freely and generously." This would naturally lead you to choosing the permissive license. After all, who would want to restrict others' access to our goodwill? The problem, therefore, lies directly in the way that licensing terminology got hijacked and modified, not only by the corporations, but by the very own open source initiative that claims to have the community's best interest in mind. Wait, as a matter of fact, let me check some information real quick about this open source initiative, right? Hold on a second. Well, there's a problem. Of course they're from California, the land of dirty money and bribery. So yeah, back to my point. The most important detail that people leave out when talking about the nature of permissiveness in software licenses is the recipient of that permissiveness, and the way that being quote-unquote permissive is taken advantage of by corporate interest. In order to illustrate my point, an anecdote is in order, and quite a landmark one this is. Back in the early 80s, hacker extraordinaire Richard Stallman worked on a Lisp interpreter, a company that was in the business of making Lisp machines and used the public domain version of said Lisp interpreter, stopped sharing their collaborations to the software because they felt like they wanted to have complete control over their product and prevent their competition, LMI, to have the same advantages that they had. Shortly thereafter, Stallman drafted the GNU Manifesto and kickstarted the free software movement as we know it. Originally, the MIT Lisp interpreter that Stallman worked on was licensed in a permissive license. It was MIT software. What Symbolics did with that interpreter, which would later become Zeta Lisp, is what inevitably happens to all permissive software. The key question that you need to ask about permissive licenses is, to whom is it permissive? In which way is it permissive? That is, what am I giving other people the permission to do? When it comes to this specific instance, you are giving them permission to exploit your work without paying you for it, nor giving it back to the common pool that you contributed to. Whereas a restrictive license makes sure that whoever pulls from the collective pool of knowledge has to give back to it. Under no circumstance should we allow this violation of our rights to continue. In what universe is it a permissible slight to have companies take the lion's share out of everything? They get to have subsidies and support from the government that citizens don't get. They get to exploit the physical and mental labor of their employees while keeping most of the profits for their board of directors. They get to pay lawmakers so that the law gets twisted in their favor more and more every year. And yet, are we supposed to just sit here and choose a permissive license so that they can grab our open code and turn it into proprietary software? And so, I come back to the central question. What is a permissive license? And what's the point of having your software be permissive? The brass tacks are that it's most likely a matter of branding, ownership, and popularity. In few worlds is it more true than a tool lives and dies by the size of its user base than in software. More users equals more libraries equals more users and potentially more corporate sponsors. Take the example of all the possible C killers that have cropped up in the previous 10 years. Projects like SIG, NIM, Crystal, Odin, Go, and Rust. Everyone with their own foundation or charitative organization that they want you to join or contribute to. The higher profile a language is, the more money you can get in sponsorships. Every new language that pops up doesn't really pop up because someone wanted to explore a unique outlook in the realm of programming. They pop up because it's a market niche that they want to capitalize on. By having a permissive license that indulges the business interest of using open software and not giving back to the community, this foundation secure an economic foothold at the cost of everyone around them. I mean, Go's a little different since it was developed in-house by Google for internal use initially, but I think that the principle applies as well. Just look at Ruby. Despite being a good language on its own right, it was well on its way to obscurity until Ruby on Rails showed up, and Ruby essentially became Rails script. Or the way that Elm, a very interesting tool for dynamic website creation, failed to garner enough attention and is now a quote-unquote dying language. I can sit here and denounce permissive software projects and foundations as being morally corrupt or sellouts or whatever. But the reality is that the economic conditions of open source overall are terrible. Permissive software is a necessity in these endeavors because it's the only way to create a property and a branding that you can monetize in a world where property is what is valuable instead of the work that people do. That is it for today's video. Let me know what you think about software licensing in the comment section down below. Make sure to fund my subscriber count and make a non-profit for that bell button. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.